Welcome to the Rise and Wander podcast, where we'll explore adventure, spirituality, and empowerment through the outdoors and beyond. Join me, Carla Amador, as we focus on topics around the mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional benefits derived through the outdoors. You'll also hear inspiring stories, get educated, and more. Let's get started. I wanted to take a moment to thank this season's Rise and Wander podcast sponsor, REI. REI is the outdoor gear retailer of the 52 Hike Challenge. I've been a member since I started my 52 hikes in 2012, and they've helped outfit me for all things hiking and outdoors since then. Becoming a member has many perks like 10% back annually on eligible purchases, a satisfaction guarantee, which gives you up to a year to return any purchases you aren't satisfied with, free shipping in the US, and so much more. Please visit them at rei.com. Join me, Carla Amador, for my new offering and program, Rise, a fully supported transformation program in which you complete 52 hikes while going through the 12 steps I've developed for healing and transformation through the outdoors. Each month, we'll go through a different topic with guided weekly exercises, one-on-one coaching with me, and access to a supportive community. This program is for anyone going through a life transition, those looking for a change, and anyone looking for accountability and guidance in their outdoors journey. Learn more and sign up at 52hikechallenge.com. Welcome to Rise and Wander, episode 6. Today, we're going to talk all about your feet. One of the most important things to think about when you're going to be doing some sort of long distance hike like the Camino de Santiago is how to care for your feet, make sure you have the right footwear, what kind of socks to wear, etc. When I was on the trail, I was really surprised to see what people were wearing in terms of their footwear, but also I noticed a lot of people suffered from foot injuries, mainly blisters. And that is one of the worst things you can experience when you're supposed to be trekking 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks or longer. So my hope is that by the end of this episode, you have had some really great tips to ensure your feet are happy, healthy, and ready to go so that you're not suffering on the trails and you are really just having an amazing time. Okay. So I have notes here. Like I said, I'm always wanting to make sure that you are good to go. And so obviously my first tip is going to be make sure to break in your shoes before you get started on your trek. So what does that mean? That means you buy them maybe 1 to 2 months before and you start hiking in those or walking in those right away. And please do not buy your shoes right before and then take them and try to break them in on the trail. That's what will cause things like blisters and foot pain, etc. So this way, when you wear your shoes beforehand, if maybe they don't work for your foot, maybe you need to change the footbed of the shoe, maybe you need to wear different socks with these shoes. There's a lot that you're going to discover. Are they too tight? Okay. So first thing is make sure that you start training in those shoes. And then if you don't know how to break in shoes, I'm going to actually talk a little bit about that now. So you're going to go try out your shoes. One of the biggest tips that Oboz, one of our footwear sponsor, talks about is the importance of fit. So go to your local REI, get fitted, make sure they use the brannock device. And what you really want is to make sure that they're measuring your whole foot and that you are getting the right shoe size for your foot. The reason why you want to ensure you have the right fit is to avoid things like damaged toenails, foot pain, etc. Okay, so first things first, you're going to go to your local REI, you're going to get fitted. What I love about REI is they have a 1-year exchange policy. You can go try on your shoes, and if for some reason they just don't work well for you, you can return them and exchange them. So also that's another reason why you would want to get fitted and start training in your shoes 1 to 2 months before, because that will give you that leeway, right? So as you're looking for shoes, you want to look for good arch support, that these shoes are durable and they feel comfortable because you're going to be wearing these for hours on end. Okay. And one of the things that you want to make sure as you're thinking about going to get fitted is go at the end of the day when your feet are most likely at their largest and most swollen. As you're walking, your feet are going to swell. Okay. So if you get your shoes, let's say you're a size 7, and you get a size 7 shoe, and then by the end of the day, your toes are hitting the front of that shoe. Why is that? You've been walking on your feet all day. They may have swollen. So that's why you also may want to get a size up on your shoe. Also, you're going to want to wear the same socks that you're going to wear while hiking. That's really important. So, we're going to talk a little bit about socks in a few moments, but a smaller shoe size is not going to help you avoid shoe slip, okay? Like heel slip. So, what you want to do is when you try on your shoes, you want to make sure your foot is all the way to the back. REI, a lot of stores have a little rock that you can go up and go down on to practice and see how your foot does as you're hiking. So, you want to make sure that you match your flex zone with the shoe. So that's this area here that matches your shoe and that you're both flexing at the same place. That's a really important with your footwear. And then making sure that you can, again, testing those out at your local REI or outdoor retailer, that you're able to go up and then go down, and just make sure that you tie your shoelaces correctly so that you can see how your foot is doing as you're going downhill or uphill. A note about shoelacing. Our website has a ton of resources on how to tie your shoes so that they can be more comfortable. So there are different ways of tying your shoelace. So that's also another reason why you would want to try on your shoes before, get your shoelacing down, make sure that you know what works well for you. Okay, other tips when it comes to footwear. You want to make sure that the bottoms of the footwear have good traction because you're going to be on all kinds of different terrain when you're doing something like the Camino. For us, we were walking sometimes on roads, sometimes we were walking out in more of a wilderness territory with rocks and dirt, and sometimes we were in the countryside or little villages or cobblestone. So you want to make sure that your shoes have the right support and that good traction is really key. Okay. Those things are going to help you avoid things like slipping. Make sure that the traction is newer so that way you're not slipping down as you're going down something rocky, etc. Also, when it comes to footwear, there's so many options, right? Like you could potentially go for a lower top shoe, or you can go for a mid top hiking boot or shoe. So the difference is low, the shoe fits below the ankle, where a mid top covers your ankle. Personally, I like mid top when I'm doing something like a through hike, or I'm going to be carrying a lot more weight on my pack. It just makes me feel extra safe and supported because I tend to run a little more clumsy as I hike. When I have that support, I feel like I don't twist my ankle as often. So that's just for me personally. Everyone's feet is different. So a low top shoe is going to be more athletic, where a mid top is going to be more of a secure fit. And then honestly, with a low top, you can go with a trail runner type shoe, like I mentioned earlier. Mid top, you're going to have the ability to keep more debris out of your shoes. So another thing you could do also is wear gaiters to avoid debris, and that's like little rocks going in your shoe, etc. So there's tons of different gaiters out there. They have the lower one, a higher one. It also depends on the weather. When you're going, you would want like a higher, thicker gaiter when you're hiking in the winter, where a lower gaiter would be good in the summertime, and it's just going to keep rocks and dirt out of your shoes. So I do want to talk about what I wore. I wore the Oboz Catabatic mid shoe, and it was awesome. It gave me the support I needed. It was flexible. It was more like of a trail runner type shoe. They call them their fast and light hikers. My mother wore the Oboz Catabatic low. She also loved it. She had no problems. And we were both really happy with the footwear we chose. Neither of us had any sort of blister issues. It was really nice to not have to worry about breaking in shoes, and they were awesome. I'd highly recommend Oboz. You can find them at REI or at their website. So give them a look. They're all about fit there. So you can learn a lot more about footwear there. Okay, so another thing you're going to want to think about as you're getting ready is, do I want my shoes to be waterproof or not? And I actually chose waterproof shoes because I knew there was a possibility of rain, and I wanted to ensure that I would keep my feet nice and protected if I was to step in puddles. Funny, it did actually rain one of the days that I was on the trail, and I was comfortable the whole time. Yes, I was soaked because it was like a heavy rain, but my footwear was perfectly fine. There were times we were crossing little river crossings and had no issues whatsoever. The only thing to know with a waterproof shoe, know that your foot might sweat more because water will not come into the shoe and there's less breathability that happens. In the summertime, you can go with something more breathable that allows the air to breathe, and it allows you to have a vent system as you're hiking so that your feet are staying more dry. So that is another option. But like I said, I went during the winter time. So that will be important as you're thinking. And then also, obviously, there's tons of materials when it comes to your footwear. You could go with a leather or more of a trail runner type shoe, which is going to have more synthetic materials. That is going to be more options as you're thinking about what works for your foot, right? And with that, let's jump into the importance of socks. We wore darn tough socks. I really love this brand. They're very comfortable, soft, and they fit really well. I also had a pair of REI wool socks. So you want to look for something that's synthetic or wool. And there's different, obviously, sizes of socks. You can go with a lower sock, something that's more of a mid length or higher. So those are things to consider. For me, I mainly wore something that was a boot size mid length sock, and that just helped my foot to stay warm and comfortable and keep debris out. With lower socks, it's just easier for rocks to go in there and little things as I'm walking along. So, another thing you're going to want to look for in socks is cushioning. There's a low amount of cushion, which is something like trail runners would use, a mid length or more of a mountaineering type cushioning. And that's just going to be more for your comfort, warmth, and the thickness of the sock. And that's why it's important to try on your shoes with those socks that you're going to be wearing. Okay, so fabrics of socks, you're going to be looking at something more like of a wool, or you're going to be looking at something that's synthetic. Personally, I love wool socks. They just are breathable and they keep your foot warm. And so they're really great. Making sure that your socks fit well is really important because that's going to avoid you having blisters and rub. Like when, the heel doesn't match the sock very well, like you can have extra rub and you don't want that. Okay, that's going to be really important. So, a little more in depth is the cushioning. You can have no cushioning. Again, that's going to be really thin, a light cushioning, a little bit thicker, a medium cushioning, which is thicker than obviously the light. And then there's that heavy cushioning, which is going to be more for mountaineering activities because it's going to be colder. For me, for the Camino, medium was the way to go. I really loved my socks. They were super comfortable. I gave my mom a pair. She loved them as well. So I can't say enough good things about Darn Tough, and they have a great warranty on them as well. So, a little bit more on materials is that obviously wool is one of the most popular. They last a long time, they regulate the temperature of your feet. It helps to prevent getting sweaty and it provides cushioning. It's also naturally antimicrobial. So it tends to retain less smells than, those synthetic fabrics. And merino wool is awesome because it's essentially itch free and it's just easier when you're drying your socks and washing them. They're more durable. So another material you can go for, there's quite a bunch of others, but there's like polyester, nylon, silk, spandex. I would say stick to the wool. If you're going to go with a synthetic, go with more of a polyester that insulates and is moisture wicking and dries quickly. Okay. So that's it for your socks. Just make sure they fit properly. That's when the heel lines with the heel of your foot, and take care of your feet. Cut your toenails because having extra toenail length will potentially hit the front of the toe. So make sure you cut your toenails, trim them before a long trek, and make sure that you take good care of your feet when you have those breaks. Put on sandals, take off your shoes, take your socks off, wiggle your toes, even getting your feet ready, doing foot yoga, foot stretches, looking those up so that when you have breaks, you're able to stretch your toes out. And also make sure that at night you care for your feet. As soon as you get in, take your socks off, put your recovery shoes on, and continue doing those exercises. I remember I would stop a lot and I would stretch my body as I was hiking. I definitely feel my hips and my feet hurt when I'm doing a long hike. And then lastly, make sure, and I talked about this in episode 5, how to treat blisters, but make sure you have your emergency kit in case you need to treat a blister, and treat yourself right away. If you start feeling a hot spot, if you feel something's rubbing, take care of it right away, because the last thing you want is to have an injury that's getting worse by the day because you didn't care for it when it first started. So that is it for today. I hope this was really helpful, and I look forward to seeing you for episode 7. And I look forward to helping you, making sure that you have such a wonderful time out there. Obviously, these tips don't only apply to the Camino, but through hiking long length days, and just for your hiking comfort in general. So I hope you learned something, and I will add show notes with some of the resources that we talked about today. And I'll see you on the trails. Take care.